In this tutorial we're going to concentrate on trial lessons, or introductory flights as they're called. It's the one part of the system that catches people out in the early stages, simply because there are so many permutations and variations. For instance, there are the people who are pre-booked by the office for timed slots on the day. There are people who just turn up and ask for a flight. There are people who turn up and have purchased a voucher but have forgotten to bring it with them. And finally, there are people who have maybe bought a third-party voucher via Into the Blue or somebody like that, and your job is to try and find the voucher and bring them into today's flying sheet. There is one other category that we're going to cover, and that's the person who's already had a voucher flight and they've been granted 30, 60 or 90 days temporary membership of the club, and they come back on the day to continue their training as part of that temporary membership. So we're going to cover all of that in this tutorial, and we're going to start straight away by handling the easiest ones first, and that's the people who have been pre-booked by the office to come for a specified time slot. So let's take a look at the ones that have been already booked in by the office. Go to today's intros and just click on it and the list will appear. Those are the 3 people that have already been pre-booked. In order to make them fly, we just go to the button that says fly and click on it. At that point we fill in the instructor who's going to be conducting the flight. We click on the aircraft, select it from the list if necessary, click on create, and you'll now go and find them in the active flight tab. And of course, once they're in the active list, all you need to do is click the clock, just like any other flight, and set the flight in motion. Let's go back to today's intros and let's redo that. We'll select the next one on the list. You'd notice on that first one that once they've started flying that the refund button has disappeared. Once they've started flying, obviously you can't give them a refund. So let's just click on fly. Let's add the instructor for this flight. And an aircraft. Click on create. Go back to the active flight tab and click the clock, and away you go. So those are the pre-booked ones. Then what about the one that just walks onto the field and asks for a flight? This is the new intro. So we click on the new intro button, and here we have to do a little bit extra work because we have to first of all choose the voucher that we're going to sell them. And of course you're going to need to collect some money off them, so we just select the payment method and enter that, not forgetting of course to collect some marketing information like the person's email address, which we're just going to type in now, all of which is useful for doing some post sale marketing to the person, invitations to the club, invitations to join the club, and not forgetting how they heard about you. Click on create. Obviously I forgot one important piece of information there. The system will warn you about that, and that's the name of the person that's going to fly. So we're just going to type that in now and click create. So at that point the system then throws up a prompt as to what to do next. What you've effectively done is to create a voucher in exactly the same way that the office would create a voucher if somebody was to pre-book. So it's done that, and it's given it a flying date of today, and it's actually put them in the today's intros list, which is where you will find them next and where the system is now prompting you to go and look. So if we look in today's intros, you'll actually see the flight there that you just entered, sorry, the voucher there that you just entered. And from that point on it's exactly the same as you process the others. You click on the fly button, you add the instructor, you add the aircraft and you click create. At that point you'll then find them in the active flying list, ready to fly. So we'll set this flight going in the air, as we've done with all the others, and then we'll just for good measure, we'll land one or two of them and we'll go and have a look at them in the completed flights tab. A quick warning there, because obviously I'm doing this in real time, so it was a short flight. It asked me whether it was a launch failure. I said no, and so the flight will be costed. Now we're going to do all that again at the risk of boring everybody, with one very subtle difference, because in the early days of free flight there were inevitably dozens if not hundreds of vouchers already out there that have been sold prior to you starting the system, and these have already been paid for. They've already in the system, they've already been accounted for, and so we have to be quite specific in the way we put these in. And the way we do that is by selecting a very special payment method, which is gift certificate. And what that does is it marks the vouchers having been paid for, but it suppresses the financial transactions and doesn't show money going into the bank accounts at the end of the financial period, which will please the treasurer no end, because it means that the accounts will always be maintained up to date. So once again the prompt comes on the screen, it throws the voucher into today's intros, and you can select it in exactly the same way that you selected all the others, and throw them into the active flying list. I'm not going to do that right now because we've seen it happen before. What we're going to do now is look at one other kind of voucher, and that's where a person turns up on the field claiming to have a voucher but they've forgotten it. So what we need to do now is try and find the voucher in the system. And now that's easy once free flight's been going for a while. It might not be quite so easy when it's an old voucher from the dim and distant past. What we've done so far is we've typed in somebody's surname and it's found them in the list and said yes, okay, they have a voucher. So now we're going to select them, click on the little button at the side, click OK. And it's brought that voucher into today's intros just in exactly the same way as it has done all the others. So again, we click on the fly button, we fill the details in, and they're good to fly. Where it gets complicated is if the voucher that they claim to have forgotten predates free flights, then it's not going to be in the system unless your office admin people have been really kind to you and input all the valid vouchers for the previous 12 months. Then you're just not going to find them in the system. I can't make a value judgment call on how you handle those, whether you tell them to go away and get the voucher or whether you agree to fly them. If you do agree to fly them though, then you will have to enter them as a new walk-on, as we did in one of the previous exercises, and also mark them as a gift certificate so that the money doesn't appear in the bank account. If you need further advice on that, then somebody please call me. So now let's launch that flight and land one of the other flights, a couple of the other flights, then let's go and have a look in the completed flights tab and see what's been happening over there. And so, as you can see, the flights are down, all the flights are costed and charged. Treasurers, please note, if you want to check these figures, you need to go to the special sales ledger account 999 and have a look what's been happening. So now we're going to look at one other menu item, which is the free extra flight. And this will be particularly important maybe on winch sites, when for normally weather reasons the flight is quite short and you may wish to give the person another flight. Also on aerotour sites, if there's a launch failure at any point, then you will need to take them round again. So the way we do that is by just especially selecting the same people from the free extra flights list and proceed as normal. In that way, that second flight will be charged at £0. So what you're seeing now, you've seen before, it's just some question of selecting people from the list. I'm not going to speak now, I'll come back in a few minutes, but just watch the video and you just proceed as normal as you have done in the past with all the other flight options. So this final part of the tutorial was teach you how to deal with returning temporary members. These are normally people who have had trial lessons and been granted a 90-day temporary membership of the club, and the first thing we need to do is to make sure that they are within that period of time. So the first thing we do here is to look for the surname of the person who's turned up, wanting to take advantage of that wonderful offer. So we type in the part of the surname here, and then we click OK, and it will then look and bring up the name, all the names of the people with that particular surname. Now at the moment the system is hard coded for a 90-day list. I know some clubs offer less than 90 days, and I will parameterize it in the future, but what the list also shows you is the date of the last flight. So click the box next to the name, click on OK, and then you're ready to proceed to enter the flight exactly as you've done for all the other ones that we've been showing in this tutorial. The only thing you need to do that's different is to enter the name of the person who's about to fly. Now that's deliberate because we allocate these flights to a special sales code 998. We do not put every temporary member in the database when 99% of them are never ever going to come back or join the club. That's just a waste of resources. So you can see in the list there that the flight has been allocated, the P2 has been allocated as 998, which is a special code that the treasurers can interrogate. And that's about it for this tutorial. We're just going to sort of land a few flights now and carry on to the end. Obviously, if this is a temporary visitor, then you need to remember to collect some cash off them, and then the back office can handle those later on. That doesn't concern you at the flight line. So that's all for now. That's the end of the tutorial. If you get any problems, please call 07802 913 753. I'm quite happy to field calls while you're flying. Don't suffer in silence. It's more important that you get it right than you get it wrong and somebody has to fix it later. So yeah, enjoy the video and see you in the next tutorial.